So thank you again for joining us in this event. As you know, we have been doing this Silver Jubilee. This is the 6th event. And I'll invite Professor Chakrabarty to come and talk more about what this nature of event is and what we hope to do with this activity. So, Professor Chakrabarty.
Good evening and welcome back for those who came back. It's a month now since we had the last event. For those who are joining us for the first time, CPDM MDes program started in 1997 and we inducted our 26th batch this year. So that is the celebration. So right now we are celebrating our Masters in Design program, and we'll then slide into Masters in all the other programs in due course as the department celebration starts. So do we have the slides here? Or we do have, I just need to, I'm only showing up there. Yeah.
Right, something is happening here. Just minimize the screen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, excellent. Okay. So, as I said, CPDM came into being, or the MDes program came into being in 1997. Professor Mrutyunjay said it was in November 1997, right? November 1997. And then just the year after, CPDM was August 7, 19. Oh, so you're exactly, yes, excellent. So, and then this department was established a year after. So we are approaching, as I said, 25 years, and hopefully at some point of time, building information management and building construction management are some of the hardest areas of practice and research. Nothing happens on time, in cost, with the quality that is expected. So I think we have a number of key performance indicators to seriously improve, and nothing can be a better example than that of our own building, which is halfway through in about 1.5 times the time. Of course, COVID did play a spoil sport, but we couldn't put all the blame just to the COVID issue. We are one of the top universities in design schools in the country, and in design research, one of the top in the world. Graduating about 400 plus MDes students in product design, 60 plus PhD students, 75 plus awards, and so on. And recently starting the MTech program, which is a small program now. I think we have inducted 11 MTech students this year, and I think they're probably all sitting somewhere in this crowd. Maybe you can just raise your hand. And yes, so they're all, well, some of them are sitting here. I don't see enough hands being raised. Okay. Yeah, so our students have been good, like in any good design school, winning Red Dot Award, being mentioned in top 25 inventions of the world in Time magazine and so on. More recent being the James Dyson Award that Deval Karia, maybe sitting somewhere in the crowd, won. Creating startups like the Sickle Innovations, which is one of the most innovative agri-tech companies in the country at the moment. And Grass Bionics, that has been championing prosthetics, prosthetic arm at an incredibly affordable price, so much so that our business development team advise us not to sell it so cheap because people will think it won't work. And that's one thing that we'd like to pride ourselves on, which is to create 10x products. Something that other people can do in X, can we do in 10 times less cost or 10 times better quality? More recently, of course, our research students have been winning all kinds of things. Platinum Award in low-cost innovation from Confederation of Indian Industry and IEEE conferences and so on, including our robotics team winning a major award in the RAMI competition in precision navigation. Students have gone around in various universities, which was the main reason why we started the research program. We started the first PhD program in design in the country. And the goal was to find people who can teach, find people who can teach with a PhD, because PhD is essential for many of the national institutions. And so it's good to see a host of them now being part of various universities teaching design. This is our vision, pursuing excellence in design and manufacturing to support development of systemically complex, technologically intensive, and socially impactful solutions by bringing together the functional, the aesthetic, the usable, and the sustainable. So the idea is to take both the ends and bring it together. It's typically divided into very different parts of a university, and they must be together. And I think we also need to rejoice the fact that our batch of MDes and our batch of MTech are sitting together. In most universities, the manufacturing students will sit in one corner of the diagonal and the design students on the other. And that's of course doesn't make sense, because ultimately things that you design must be manufactured, and things that manufacturing people need to know what is to be manufactured, what can be done, at the front end, so that you don't find it so difficult to manufacture. So they are really two sides of the same coin, and they don't have to be so far apart. Then the coin becomes a very unusual coin. This is our vision. Of course, we want to develop competent professionals, nurture leaders, innovate products, and develop knowledge. Right? Develop knowledge is very much part of the research, as any research-intensive university. I will skip all the details, but we have now, it's no longer 23 batches. I think we have to update now. So what is, okay, there are two things that are quite heartening. Number one, about 10% actually opt for higher studies, which is good, otherwise we will end up not having teachers. Second is that I would say about 30% of our final year projects in design, you normally get a patent, okay? And that's a very high percentage, which is good, because then you are developing new technology and new products around them. The third is that about 5 to 10% more, now approaching 15%, actually opt for startups, which is also important, because you not only want to seek jobs, you want to also create jobs. Let me just. And then a number of things that we lead in the country. We started 2 of the major design related conferences. ICOD is one, IPLM conference is another. We have one of the Design Innovation Center hubs in the country situated here, National Design Innovation Network, also led by CPDM, and Design Observatory, and a smart factory that you should all visit. And I've already talked about them. Maybe just to add to that, there is also a technology business incubator that focuses on medtech and geriatric startups. So if anybody among you are doing that, then you should be looking for that as a destination for yourself. I think I've talked about ICOD already. It's the 9th edition coming up in 2023. We have 400 plus papers submitted, and we are having a hard time finding additional reviewers in order to get them reasonably reviewed, because we normally expect at least three reviews per paper in, and we are found wanting really, because last year we had about 270 submissions, and suddenly it's become 400 plus. So, some of you might receive a request to become reviewers, so please accept it. We also have initiated a manufacturing conference called Industry 4.0 and Advanced Manufacturing, IFORUM, and it's still small, but it's growing. So with that, I would like to pass it on to Vishal for the agenda today. I hope this is the right agenda. Yes, it is. 6th batch. So I'll leave this one here. Yeah.
Thank you. So we'll directly move on to the agenda. So I think it's shared with everyone very quickly. So we just had the 10-minute introduction. We'll start with a 10-minute talk from each of the panelists. We have 4 panelists, so they'll each talk for 10 minutes. We'll try to keep it to 10 minutes. So I'll just give an alarm when 2 minutes is left, so that we keep on to the time. Then we'll follow it up with a 30-minute panel discussion. The idea here is that it should be more interactive, and we hope that there will be questions from the audience side. So we'll try to have 10, 15. I've said 10 minutes if time permits, and there are more questions, we can extend that. And then we have the 6th batch, which happens to be my batch when I was a student. So my batch folks will be joining this time. And then we'll have a thanking note and closer for the ceremony. And then follow it up. For those who are here, we'll have a high tea here. Those who are at home can try the same at home. So this is the panel today. So we have Mr. Siraj Bhagwan, one of our alumnus. We have Professor T.S. Mrityunjaya, our founder chairman. We have Mr. Anuj Prasad, been very well-known name in the design in India. And we have Dr. Aarti Manohar from Brunel Design School. So with that, I'll sort of get started with the talks. So since Mr. Prasad is online, I think for the ease of logistics, maybe I'll ask Mr. Prasad to do the first talk, and then we'll follow up from there. So, Mr. Prasad, if you can come online, put your camera on. Okay, there you are. Just give me a moment. I'll stop sharing so that we can see you. Sure. Just give me one moment to sort of settle things here. Yeah, and if you can now share your slides. In the meanwhile, I'll give a very brief introduction. So Mr. Anuj Prasad is an alumnus of NID, and he has over 30 years of industry and entrepreneurial experience. He co-founded Desmania, a very well-known in design. It's a leading firm that started in 1993. He sees himself as a strategic and value creation, design as strategic and value creation tool for business. He has been a founding member of CII Design Committee and also a jury member of India Design Mark. He's on the advisory board of many universities and design schools. And over the years, he has mentored many design students within Desmania, but also through the Bridge School, of which he is the founding partner. Under his leadership, Desmania has grown to offer multidisciplinary design services covering a large cross-sectional of industry. And as he says, ranging from a jar to a car, Desmania does everything, right? Which is what we teach as well at CPDM. And there are notable subdivisions and offsprings of Desmania, including Desmania Auto Studio, which focuses on automobile industry. Desmania Innovation Lab, I believe, focuses more on social innovation and impact. And Desmania has been adjudged as the best design house in India on several occasions. So with that, I cut his intro, which was quite long, of course, to a brief so that I'll let him talk. And yeah, so your 10 minutes starts now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vishal, and thank you, Dr. Chakravarti, for giving me an opportunity to address a very esteemed audience here. And IISc is an extremely respected institute, and very happy to be here. So what I'll do is I'll just take you through a very quick profile and a small case study. I think this will give you a fair idea about what design is at Desmania and what innovation means here. I hope I am audible to all.
Yes, it's all good. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have been there for last more than 25 years now. As a design company, we are a 29-year-old company. And we built up this design excellence center, and where, of course, what Dr. Vishal said, from a jar to a car, we design everything in this excellence center. And the whole idea of building up the studio plus the design center was to give a very conducive kind of an environment to the creative people. You can see the studios which we have. And we have everything in-house. You know, it's an integrated design studio which boasts of design studio, innovation facilities, workshop, clay modeling studio, and I think we can just do anything in this design studio. As I told you, from a jar to a car, we can design anything in the studio. And we have a fantastic team. And let me also tell you that our studio head, whose name is Himanshu Chaman, is also from IISc. And he has been there with us for the last few years. He heads the design studio in Desmania. Also, these numbers do matter because I think the journey of design also is related to the practices which you do and the number of projects which you do, which gives you a phenomenal amount of experience to deal with any kind of challenges. Just to give you a glimpse of the client list with whom we work in all the three design practices which we offer, which is in the area of FMCG, product design, and automotive design. And as we have grown in last 25 years plus, we have been offering a variety of design services. It is not only product design. or it is not just related to designing good looking products, but a variety of adjacencies which we have found through our design practice, So again, another quick glimpse on the three verticals in which we operate. And yeah, of course, we have won a few awards for variety of projects which we have done for the corporate largely. Another glimpse on the products which we have designed, which are probably in millions of homes in India. So it all relates to a very wide band that we cover through our design services, includes many medical equipment, which are some of them are globally launched also by GE, Thermo Fisher kind of clients, and new emerging areas, which is in the area of public space and solutions, like designing smart bus shelters, garbage management system, dispensing systems to you know curb the environmental damage which is happening through the packaging, and several projects in the area of automotive design, which includes right from conceptualization, design research, and converting them into prototypes. Many design engagements are offered to the clients, not only just doing a project, but all these are design engagements. And over the years, we have also made many tools, which are very industry specific tools. So one of the few tools, which is extremely popular right now is the co-creation tool, which we call as Idea Factory. And another one is cost optimization through design, which is very apt for the industry in today's times. This is the design thinking process which we have evolved over so many years. It's called Desmaniacs. So I think this is just a brief about our company, what we do. But what I've seen as a transition over the last few years is that design is being seen not as a skill only, but it is also seen as a thought. And industry has started recognizing design as a problem-solving process. And this has come through, very long-lasting efforts from the academic institutes, practitioners like us, and also the evolution of the industry. So all of us do agree that design thinking leads to, so many touch points and engagements which create a delight in any product or service. And design strategy is becoming very big. It is actually vying with the marketing and business strategy. And any company which has a certain vision, they love to have a design strategy done by designers like us. And again, this is the evolution of design, where design is just not a skin, but it's to do with the emotions of people, sensorial design, social, cultural, experiential, ecological. And one of the main tasks which we have is to actually humanize technologies, because technologies without design mean nothing. So this is one of the major challenges which we have to further, take design to a larger audience and make it universal, design for seniors, design for social change, for the emerging markets. India needs so much design, all of us agree to it. And I think sustainable practices in design can be really contributed by the designers in a very big way. So I would like to quickly show you a case study. I think I have some 4 minutes left. So let me just run you through a very agile innovation which we had done, in the COVID times, where the challenges were massive. And we completed this whole design and launched the product in precisely 16 weeks time, and all done during the first lockdown. So this saying is something which I would like all the students and all the fresh young designers to read, that when you have a moment of crisis, there's always an opportunity which is sitting behind it. And I think just reading this is so enlightening. And this is exactly what we did during the COVID times. So we designed a product which was designed in India and made in India, all done in-house within Desmania. The brand which we launched was called Armor, and which was a full face mask, which we designed in-house only during the first lockdown time. And we launched it in precisely 16 weeks. And you can see this mask, which was a highly award-winning kind of a product, done with extreme agility, I would say, and with a team of just 5 people who were dedicated to this. And all this was done in-house because during lockdown, there's nothing which was open. So we used only our facility, our own CNC machine, 3D printing, our own people who could work in the workshop, vacuum forming, several iterations. We did at least 25 iterations to reach the final solution, which was not this. It was not this. This is all trial, testing, getting feedback from the users. And this is close to the final solution, which we had done. And then we built up the complete dies, which were in aluminium. And this was the final product which we launched, which was a full face mask called Breeze. And it is completely eco-friendly because it is washable. It has nano filters which are replaceable. And it's a durable, it's not a disposable mask. And this is the way it looked. And all this was done without having any prior knowledge about manufacturing, production. And we launched this on Flipkart, Amazon. And during the pandemic, we would have actually sold more than 50,000 number of these, you know. And then we made several derivatives, for different audiences, like typical design company, more user-centric. One size doesn't fit all. So we designed for the delivery people. We designed it for doctors, which had a N99 kind of an equivalence. We did testing on all this. Different filters, extremely good communication to people, through all these infographics which you see, tested, and we got the certificates from different labs. And you can see different users using it. It's quite a rage during that time, and demand was so high that we actually could not supply to the demand. So these were the masks which did extremely well. Medex 99, Breeze 99 for people. Then we also made half face masks with transparency, opaque, different colors. We added a little more style to the whole thing, and they were extremely effective. Very, very high in protection, and all this was done precisely in 4 months. 16 weeks time, and this remained there for 1.5 years. And I think more than just the innovation, it did so well for the people because it gave them a fantastic feeling of protection, and while not hiding their face. So this is the story of Armor, which I wanted to share with all of you. And I do believe that in the current times where our country is, what we need is agile innovation. And this is one of the examples of agile innovation, where we don't have to do R&D for years and years to come out with a product because time just flies by and the relevance goes away. So agile innovation is what we want to talk about. And we have kept innovating on this. This is an UV sanitizer which we made, which is autonomous sanitizer, which was made by all done during this time. Very few people, many challenges, and yet so much of innovation. So I think the role of designers is way beyond just designing products and good-looking products, but we have to solve problems, and we can solve problems in a completely different way. So the overall statistics was fantastic, and we also won 2 awards for this project. I think this is all about Desmania, a good example of agile innovation, and I'm sure all of you would endorse it, that agile innovation is something which is the challenge of the time, and good design can actually transform the economy, livelihood, and create awareness. So all the best to all of you, the young designers from IISc, and I'm sure great times are there ahead of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So very much reflects our thoughts and philosophy of design that we teach and then inculcate in CPDM. So it's always reassuring to hear it from practitioners with a lot of experience talking about the same thing. So please stay online. I think we'll go to the next speaker. We'll after we have had all the talks, then we'll take the questions after that. So with that, I'll invite Professor T.S. Mrityunjaya to give his talk. So let me, it's difficult to again, so I sort of took snapshot from his extended profile. So I'll very quickly try to summarize something briefly. So Professor Mrityunjaya is an emeritus professor at IISc, and he was the founding chair of CPDM. He taught courses at master's level in IISc in mechanical engineering for more than 30 years, including subjects such as materials, mechanics, experimental stress analysis, robotics, mechanism design, engineering design, and so on. And he was also a visiting professor at the Ohio State University. He played a critical role in launching CPDM in 1997 and taught courses on creative engineering design, design and society, and supervised several product-oriented design projects in this program. He also served as the chairman Center for Continuing Education from 1993 to 1999 at IISc. Professor Mrityunjaya has been published widely, and he has been recognized among the global top 2% researchers in his area in engineering design. So I tried to have a very brief and quick summary. So please, on stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Shalsink, for your introduction. Now, a week ago, Professor Chakrabarti called and said, we have an event as part of Silver Jubilee. We want you to be present. Without thinking, without having any second thought, I said yes. Then after a couple of days, Professor Singh sent a letter with a host of questions. Then I thought whether I did a mistake in saying yes to Chakrabarti, because he said, of course, in the letter it said, we will ask the experts to make a 10-minute presentation, and then we will ask them questions. And I thought I am part of that we. So, okay, because the questions are all about products and designs and so on. As you know, I have only been in teaching. I remember the quotation from Bernard Shaw. He said, those who can do, those who cannot teach. So I'm doing design and teaching design are very, very different. Okay. So then I said, I know I should be in the audience, not on the dais. Then I said, having accepted, what should I do? So, well, I said the product doesn't always mean a physical thing. Okay. Product can mean a physical item, a process, a plan, and so on. Then I thought, okay, but I see my best design was CPDM. So I'll talk about how CPDM was created, Though, of course, I have also done many physical designs, but that was ages ago. Okay. In fact, as I said, I did the master's in machine design at IISc, second batch, 64 to 66. So 3 of us designed what is called as a rotating moment fatigue testing machine. And we also made a prototype and ran it. Okay. So like that, at CPDM also guided a few design projects, which were novel at that time. But then with time, they become out of date. And also, you may design something new, but unless you have a passion and continue. Just now, our old student was telling there should be something to motivate whatever students design to continue with it and bring it to a stage where it can become a product and so on, incubation. So for that, passion is needed on the part of the students as well as the faculty and facilities. Many times it doesn't happen. Even research, many research students, including my own, do wonderful research work. But once they submit and get a degree, they do not have the enthusiasm to publish this. So if you don't publish, even if it is wonderful work, after years it becomes outdated. Same thing with design. You may come up with a novel design, but unless it is pursued and made it into a good product, and then maybe apply for patent and so on, it won't stay in the history. Okay. So that's why I decided not to talk about any of the products that I helped in designing. Okay. So just to come to the story of CPDM, well, I did masters in mechanical system design. Of course, it was in that course that my interest in design was aroused by the courses offered by Professor M.R. Raghavan. Okay. So it was a course on design of engineering systems. Okay. Where he taught about general methodology for problem solving and some creativity techniques and so on. So with that interest, then after completing masters, I joined the department as faculty, both for my entry into the IISc for doing masters and my entry into the faculty of the mechanical department. The credit or thanks go to Professor Arkat Ramchandran, who was chairman of the mechanical department at that time. So after joining the faculty, after some time, the responsibility for offering that design course came to me. So that is how I had to delve deep into the subject and start teaching. And further, during those times, Professor Bernard Roth from Stanford University spent 3 months at IISc in the Department of Mechanical Engineering, and he taught a design course, a general design course for our integrated masters. So that also helped in developing in me greater interest in design. And then during 86, 88, I was at the Ohio State University as a visiting professor during my sabbatical. So there I had a lot of free time. So I went into more depth in design literature. So after coming back, so we were thinking what to do. In IISc, design was being taught in 2 departments. The engineering design aspect was taught in mechanical engineering department. The industrial design aspect was taught in the Center for Electronics Design Technology by my younger colleague, Pradeep M.E. And also during that time, of course, I continued offering Professor Raghavan's course, rechristening as creative engineering design. And then I was also asked to organize the international conference as part of the Golden Jubilee of Mechanical Engineering Department, during which we had a panel discussion on design education, in which Professor Chakravarti also was present. Okay. So after that, me and M.E. thought we should do something. Why not we do something combining engineering design being taught at mechanical department and industrial design being taught at the CEDT. Okay. So that is how the thought of starting a product design course came up. And luckily, during that time, institute wanted ideas for starting new master's programs. So there was a committee chaired by Professor M.A. Lakshmi Tatachar, which invited proposals, okay, for starting new ME programs, because they, at the time, they had closed all the UG programs, so that IISc should concentrate on master's program. So that gave us an opportunity. So me and ME sat together and formulated this program. In this process, I visited IDC at IIT Bombay, had discussion with the faculty there regarding the program being offered there. I also had discussions with faculty at IIT Delhi and learned about the program there. And then we thought of a program combining industrial design and engineering design. We cannot whole hog towards industrial design as done in IIT Bombay, because IISc being strong in science and engineering, we wanted to retain the engineering aspect. So we thought, let's have a program with almost equal emphasis on industrial design and engineering design. So that is how this program was initiated. Of course, there was big support because the courses were such that they could not be handled by faculty in mechanical alone. So we had faculty coming forth to offer courses from metallurgy, aerospace engineering, industrial management. Of course, CEDT and mechanical engineering shared most of the load. And we also had faculty from other practicing people and so on. So this is how we started in '97. And then we started in mechanical engineering. But then gradually mechanical engineering faculty felt that, well, this is something which doesn't really fit in our department, because we left the doors open for architects. Till the time, architects did not have entry even into civil engineering department. So ours was the first program, okay? So, and sketching, rendering, modeling, and so on, other faculty who were believers in hardcore engineering research, they said, what is this? Okay. So they thought this will need a separate place. And luckily at that place, the central workshop, which took up all manufacturing jobs of all the departments, was almost out of job, because research was tending towards computer-oriented approach in all the departments, so there were not many orders. Okay, there was a lot of space and so on. So then the thought came, why not use that workshop? So that is how CPDM started in '98, and I became the first chairman. So we had years of work, bringing, remodeling the central workshop to become CPDM. And in that process, Professor Ranganathan, who was the regional chairman at that time, of course, Professor Padmanabhan, who was the director, Professor Sridharan, who was the deputy director, they all were very, very supportive. And it was Ranganathan who thought that manufacturing should also be there. That's how it became CPDM, Center for Product Design and Manufacturing. Okay. So this is how we started, and this is how it happened in all IITs also. Product design started in mechanical, but very soon moved out and became an independent department. So the starting was only my job, with excellent cooperation from faculty. But any design will become very out of date within short time, unless it is being updated. So the updating of CPDM has been happening continuously. So CPDM, as I see now, is nothing, nowhere. What was CPDM 25 years ago? So all that credit goes to my successors and students and so on, etc. So wonderful things are happening at CPDM. And actually, when I thought about it, I should be here to listen to the success stories of the alumni of CPDM rather than telling about myself. I retired in 2003. Then for the last 14 years or so, I have been doing somewhat same as what I was doing at IISc, teaching design, but not any research. So I'm at the School of Postgraduate Studies, Nettur Technical Training Foundation, Peenya, Bangalore. There also we have a postgraduate program in product design and engineering, which started 6 months after our program started. Okay. So there, after retirement, when I was there, the director there and principal there came and requested me, why don't you come and join us? So that's how I am there. And as I said, I'm doing the teaching part, no research part, but I'm doing a lot more teaching there than I was doing at IISc, and a lot more different subjects. As I said here, I was teaching only creative engineering design and mechanisms. So there, in addition to this, I am teaching product design, new product development, okay, systematic innovation, which is about the rush and tridge technique, okay, human factors, in product design, okay, all this. So it's good. It says, there is another saying, teaching is the best way of learning. Okay, so that way, and learning never stops. Okay, so that way it has been helping, okay, to keep in touch with design. Okay, and design there, of course, our training there is more focused towards industry. Okay, not about advanced studies or research. And NTTF has a good reputation in the industry. So our students spend their last semester in the industry doing work relevant for the particular industry, and they are absorbed there afterwards. So more application oriented. So that also helps. So in this way, this is the story of my design. Okay. So with this, I thank Professor Chakravarti for giving me an opportunity to come here and interact with you. And I can't wait to hear the success stories of others. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, so when I joined, Professor Mrityunjay was our chairman, so it's always good to listen to him, as it was that time as well. So with that, I'll invite our next speaker. So I'll invite Dr. Aarti Manohar to come on stage, and I'll briefly introduce her. So Aarti is a design researcher investigating the relationship between social design and technology. She's currently a senior lecturer in Brunel's Design School. Earlier, she was a research fellow at Northumbria University, Newcastle, where she explored complex socio-digital problems, including designing for trust. She has worked across interdisciplinary research groups, including Mixed Reality Lab and at the University of Nottingham and the Innovation School at Glasgow School of Art. Her doctorate was part of EPSRC Digital Economy Project, Tales of Things and Electronic Memories at University of Dundee. And her research interests include participatory design, co-design, user-centered design, and human-computer interaction. I'll leave it more for Aarti to sort of present. I'll just get your slides up. Just give me a moment. Okay. Just a moment. Okay.
So good afternoon, everyone. Just wanted to start by thanking Professor Vishal and Amaresh for inviting me over and hosting me at this beautiful campus, IISc. I had a wonderful time meeting staffs and students, and one thing that really, and one thing that really kind of jumped out for me was, I've worked across institutes. I worked across a lot of research institutes in the UK, and you see different schools of thought that cuts across these institutes. What they mean by co-design in one of these institutes does not necessarily mean co-design in another one. And what I found really fascinating in IISc here is within one research group, there's different schools of thought as well. And I think that's the richness of, I suppose, being in such a multicultural and diverse institute. So I really, really enjoyed that, and I wanted to present a short research project that I've been working on since the pandemic. And as Vishal was saying, so just a quick introduction. At the moment, I'm a senior lecturer at Brunel University London. I'm also one of the program directors here. But before this, I was a postdoctoral researcher at Northumberland University Newcastle, where I was exploring design as a way of bringing discourse into multidisciplinary researchers. I'll talk a little bit about that as well in a few minutes. And my background is in architecture, so I bring a slightly interdisciplinary element to some of my works as well. And just to give a glimpse of some of these areas that I touched on, and I feel like I've been talking about some of my introductions since 10 a.m., but for those who've heard this before, I do apologize. So I started my research as a PhD student working in Internet of Things. It's about 12 years since then. I'm still looking at Internet of Things. So you can imagine how much has evolved in this technology. And so a few things I touched on in the journey is looking at blockchain and looking at artificial intelligence and some of the elements of virtual reality aspects as well. And Internet of Things is a more recent journey that I've taken. And one of the things I wanted to emphasize here is I'm not a computer scientist, I'm not a programmer, and I'm not an engineer. As you said, I come from a very humble architectural background. But what really interested me is how designers actually can play an important role in such multi-disciplinary projects, and they actually bring a discourse into in the sort of issues that finding a common language, for example, or find a lexicon that actually fits. For example, what you're talking about blockchain. What does transactions mean within blockchain, for example? So I think designers do have an important role to play, and that's my takeaway in working across these projects that involve emerging technologies. And one of the projects I really want to talk about today is called 3D, which stands for Trust in Home, which is rethinking interface design in the Internet of Things. So it is an interdisciplinary project, and we are looking at it from 3 different perspectives. And the lead researcher, Dr. Chidam Singhal, she is a computer scientist, so she brings a lot of systems thinking into the project. And Dr. Jeong Chen, who is a lecturer at University of Sheffield, so he brings expertise as interpreting policies and law. He works in the Department of Law. And myself, I'm a designer. I'm looking at the UX UI element of some of these IoT devices that falls into these categories. And just to emphasize, the project is funded by EPSRC, which is Engineering Physics Research Council, is based in the UK. And the particular theme that this research project was based on, it was called human data interaction. So we really want to understand how users actually interact with the data that might be sometimes visible and sometimes actually is invisible as well. So how do you actually make sense of this? Or how do users make sense of this? And what are the challenges that they're actually facing? As I said, IoT has been around for a very, very long time. As I said, my PhD started and I'm still looking at IoT. So what does these issues mean then? And what do these issues mean now? So I don't know if some of you might be aware of this. So Kevin Ashton, he's a British entrepreneur, and he actually accidentally coined the term Internet of Things. Do look him up, and there's a really interesting interview that he's given about what he anticipated this technology is going to do in about 10 years' time. And yeah, if you're interested in it, I would say just go listen to the interview. And he sort of defines IoT as more of a technology where it collects data and doesn't necessarily involve the user in the process. And he kind of sees it as an assistive technology where it doesn't necessarily need to say a certain part of the information if it's deemed unnecessary to the user. We'll come back to this. This is a slightly debatable element when it comes to user-centered design, especially when you're involving user, how much disclosure is necessary and how much is too much information and how much is too little. How do you actually give control to the user? And in order to explore this look at different elements within IoT, and especially we wanted to understand the elements, IoT issues within the space of home. So it's a very, very complex context. And when we actually wrote the bid, this was pre-pandemic. We didn't really anticipate how the home environment would change so dramatically during the pandemic when everyone is working from home. So how did the personal spaces actually evolve? And so we kind of rewrote the proposal in a way, and we had to rethink some of our objectives in what we are trying to look. So we classified these IoT devices into 4 categories. We actually classified 5, but interestingly, a lot of the participants were not interested in the 5th category. So, so this was the 4 categories we actually explored a little more in detail. So smart toys, smart health, home security, and smart appliances. Some of them are self-explanatory, as you can see. So anything any smart devices that helps in education within young children, or any smart devices that would help within the security of your home. All of this were easily classifiable within these categories, and we were trying to explore the issues within each of these use cases, so to speak. And in order to understand this, IoT devices within homes, we wanted to actually classify each of these even furthermore. And in order to do that, we went to a very established framework. Richard Mottier, I don't know if any of you are familiar with his work. So he has a very famous paper written on human data interaction. Again, I encourage you to go have a look at that. So he classifies these 3 elements as the major features to look into. So one is called the legibility, another one is negotiability, another one is agency. So we really wanted to try and expand these 3 elements within these sort of 4 use cases. So this is where it gets a little bit complex. And the legibility aspect is very obvious. You want to understand what the device is actually doing. Again, how do we make sense of this and what issues people face? Negotiability, how do we actually try to improve some of the workings and what can we negotiate within that space and what is allowed? And agency, how do we actually bring in external agency to make it better and understand what the users actually need and what do they want and how do we actually incorporate that? And one of the things, while we're looking at such complex systems and systems thinkings and GDPR, which is, I don't know if you've heard of this, it is a policy that's implemented in 8 by the UK government that really dictates how some of these technologies actually can work. So we want to try and look at all of these sort of complex systems and also look at the hardwares and the softwares of these. So we started unpacking these like 3 different features. I'm not going to go through all of this, but I mean, obviously the slides are there for you to refer. But we want to try and unpack how can the legibility be meaningful to the user? Where does it start and where does it stop? And what kind of agency would these users actually wish to be incorporated in these designs? And how, what kind of control do they actually need when they're looking at the data? And lots of interesting conversation I had during the day was one of the main things we were talking about were design principles. And the more we worked in this project on design principles, we realized they're not too different from design principles you would apply for a product design or an engineering point of view. And it's all about how you interpret and how you apply these in the context. So, yeah, I think these kind of breaking down these 3 key features by Richard Mortier's framework and how they can be interpreted within IoT systems and smart homes really helped us unpack these 3 key frameworks: legibility, agency, and negotiability. And one of the things I wanted to stress was, I don't know how long I have. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to emphasize was the workshops we designed with the participants in order to understand the sort of different challenges they had in working with these, whether they are computer scientists actually designing these platforms, or whether they're users or privacy conscious users, or whether they are lawyers trying to interpret these data and working with these computer scientists. How do we actually engage with them? They're all very, very different disciplines, and they have different lexicons when it comes to these. So how do we actually find a common ground here? So that's where, the program, the project leader said, "Oh, Arti, can you come up with a design workshop which can actually try and engage with them?" So one of my main interests in this area is how do you actually bring creative ways to engage with users? And I used design fiction as a way, as one of the ways to engage with users. I used card sorting, again, is a very user-centric approach as well to understand how people prioritize, what people prioritized in these spaces. So all of these sort of creative engagement with these users actually gave us very, very rich data. And some of them were very obvious and some of them were very, very novel. And we are still in the process of publishing some of these findings, but I just wanted to share what the early findings of these actually were. So one key thing in these, like smart health, one of the use cases, if you remember I was talking about, is people had very different perceptions of what they meant kind of tech optimism versus what they deemed as tech mistrust. So what would they trust within these systems and what would they not? And given the different backgrounds people came from as well, so we started to look at their profiles specifically and a little bit of qualitative analysis behind these, like why did they think it was interesting for them to trust this part of the technology more than the other? And moving on to the second set of categories, so better home control to overcome power conflicts. So again, if you're looking at smart homes, there is different variations in who controls these technologies and who has the administrative powers, and how do we actually transfer some of these administrative powers to other people in their houses? Do they want to have these admin powers? And what happens if the negotiation fails within the domestic context? And those level of power controls was one of the really, really interesting conversations we had with these people within this context. And another one was keeping the user within the loop, and how do we actually try to implement that? And this is a little bit of, again, future-proofing the IoT devices here as well. And the final 2 points I wanted to highlight here was, some of these participants who engaged, again, as I said, they were computer scientists, they were people who worked within Department of Law, and some of them were UX UI designers, such as myself, and some of them were actually, if you categorize them, they would be deemed as tech-savvy people. So how did they actually perceive this particular technology was interesting and what they considered privacy, and it actually fell within the spectrum of privacy here. So this level of a kind of nuanced outcome was possible, I believe, through the creative approaches I used within the workshops. And it really helped in bringing an interesting conversation to the table, if not, wouldn't have been possible in my point of view. And I just wanted to end this by kind of reinforcing what some of my previous peers have been talking about as well. Design, yes, has been seen as a solution to some of the problems, but it's also, as my previous panelists were talking about, design is a thought. And I just wanted to add to that as well. It is not a mere means to an end, but design is a means of an inquiry. I think that's something, it takes a while to digest, and it's more than a way of looking at it as a process. So how do you actually use design as a way to unpack some of these very complex elements in the projects that you're working, and in some of the very complex topics you're working as well. So I'll finish that. Thank you.
All right, so it will take me a couple of minutes to set the next presentation. In the meanwhile, I think somebody can bring a mic, and if somebody has a question, they can ask while I set up the next presentation. So just bear with me. All right, so you can ask questions if you have any. So Vignesh can bring the mic to you. Yeah, Manish.
Framework which you presented in between. My name is Manish. I'm faculty in CPDM. Nice talk and interesting topic for me, especially when you try to link it with the healthcare, because trust is an important aspect there as well. So the reason I wanted some clarification on the 3 points which you said. I think one was legibility, other was negotiability, and third one was agency. Are these the things which are? Are these 3 things necessary and sufficient for trust? There are 2 questions in it. In some sense, are they necessary? Are they sufficient to build trust?
I think. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. So I mean, that's a very interesting question. It's something that I think the author also talks about as well. I think he's suggesting the framework as a very basic, and I think the paper was published probably like 7 years ago. And the more we know about technology, I think it's the frameworks are always meant to be pushed, and they're meant to be adapted at some point. Right. I think hence we kind of came up with a table to unpack some of these a little more, right, in order to unpack what legibility meant in different contexts, like cognitive level, or in a sort of in a very basic level where users interact. But that's a complex question in whether that's enough to build trust. But I think as the technologies evolve, I think their framework might also need to evolve.
Right.
Yeah.
And my question was not specifically with the technology. Even the trust between people, is this sufficient? Is there something else to be considered? That again, it need not be just trust between a human and a machine. It's a trust between humans also. Which can that be extended to that, or have people looked at it? If you're aware of such things.
I think not within that framework, but I think there has been some work. We've done a lot of work within with trust, and trust with brands, trust with design, trust with like social service systems. But I think it definitely needs a much more holistic way of looking at. And trust is quite a complex one as well. Right. The more we learned about trust, we moved away from the word trust as well, and we started looking at trustworthiness, which is more of a spectrum of trust.
If you can keep it closer, because there's a live feed, so.
Okay, yeah.
You all need to hold your mics closer to your mouth. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
All right, thank you.
All right, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think we'll go with the next presentation and we'll come back to the Q&A again. All right, so with that, I'll go to the final panelist. So we have Mr. Siraj Bhagwan, an MDes alumni of CPDM 2002 batch. So it's always a pleasure to introduce our own people. So Siraj has been further trained in biomedical device innovation at Stanford University and the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. He's a specialist in product design engineering, clinical observations, needs finding, developing solutions, regulatory, bridging the worlds of medical engineering, dealing with physicians, engineers, entrepreneurs, and developing medical devices that are safer, affordable, and accessible. He's an entrepreneur who co-founded Omia Healthcare Limited, and he's also the founder and managing director of Indio Labs, a medical technology development company. So with that, I'll invite Siraj to give his talk. Thank you.
So that's a younger looking me. Thank you for having me here. It's always a pleasure, and it's an honor to share stage with Professor Mrityunjaya, of course with Aarti and Anuj also. Just 22 years back, I was sitting that side. Today, I would like to briefly mention about phases of the design journey I had. First, it is after my undergrad in production engineering as a design implementer, where then the formal training I had here in CPDM during 2000-2002. Then as a design creator working on several projects in various domains. And then again, my formal training at BioDesign program in medical device innovation. And then 2014 onwards as a design innovator or technopreneur role. And we will talk a little more detail about this. As a design, it's not going forward. Okay, so here. Okay. Yeah. So as a design implementer, I could not find pictures because that were way back in 1995 to 2000. But what essentially I was doing is to realize and implement the design which was being created at the design and development department in a luggage manufacturing company at my native. Essentially, I was making tools, making fixtures, define processes, participate in design review, design for manufacturing, assembly, testing, and all. And I believe this was a very important phase which helped me in aspiring for a design as a designer or a design creator. I left my job and came here to CPDM for formal training. Of course, I may not want to talk about my days in CPDM in front of professors, but those were my best days in life, I would say. After that, I graduated from here in 2002. I joined a manufacturing services company here in Bangalore, Whitefield. As a design development head working with fitness product, as well as many manufacturing projects, seeing them implemented on shop floor. And these were from multiple domains, medical, telecommunication, defense and all. I also started product development consultancy services in year 2005. Here are a few products which we provided as a service in different domain, consumer durables, medical devices, few projects in defense, one in space system, industrial systems. And between 2012-13, I again was missing institute and being as a student. So I was fortunate to be selected for fellowship in medical device innovation. Professor BGM had given a strong recommendation to me. It's a collaborative program between AIIMS and Stanford University. formally trained in the needs finding, clinical observation, needs evaluation, and of course the intellectual property, regulatory, and clinical investigations. Since 2014 onwards, I have been working in medical devices. I have two startups. First one is Omya Healthcare Limited, working in intensive care space, majorly in patient monitoring, drug infusion systems, respiratory system. This is a portfolio of product which we developed and tested. There's a second startup called Indio Labs, working on novel, safer soft tissue biopsy system. Biopsy is a procedure prescribed for definitive diagnosis and staging of infective as well as cancer pathologies in liver, kidney, breast, prostate, and lungs. I believe in my journey of design, this is the most significant contribution so far I have made. This starts with an unmet need of a safer procedure and its effectiveness in diagnosis in secondary care setting. This has mass outreach in providing definitive diagnosis for patient in secondary care setting. We have developed 3 technologies, 14 international granted patents. But believe me, the most difficult was to design the first one on the left. It's a needle, something very simple in the form, most effective in function, and manufactured in mass. It's a dual function needle. This needle guides through the skin and muscle and then on demand cuts intended tissue with the help of negative pressure, then separates the cord tissue from organ on rotation, and all without any crush or stretch artifacts. The second technology is about delivering a hemostatic agent concurrently while the tissue is being captured, so that when the needle is out from the organ, the wound shall heal and not bleed. Third is about automatic transfer of captured tissue to a sample container safely, retain the diagnostic ability of the tissue. So I believe being able to contribute toward health of people in whatever small way I could makes me happy as a design innovator. This is the ultimate phase of design which enables you to thought leadership position in your own respective field of work. I would recommend all of you to aim for this thought leadership in the coming years in your professional career. Thank you.
Right, so I'll invite all the panelists to the stage. We'll carry on with the next part. Initially, I'll take the liberty to ask questions. That's my privilege. And then I'll ask you all to ask questions, right? So if you can have the panelists here, please. I'll just again, just give me a moment. I'll just unshare the content so that we can have all the panelists here. Just let me get this part of the screen organized so that, okay, we have everyone here. All right. Okay, so thank you all again. What we plan to do in this part is that we ask a few questions, and I'll tell you why we are doing it, and we repeat the questions to all panelists in each of the events. And the idea is that we want to understand design from different perspectives. The 4 talks already, we had very diverse talks, and that's what we have been having across the different events. And what we want to do is that we want to celebrate design, and we want to also sort of recognize design ambassadors, both from practice and from research. And over these 25 events, we are looking at 100 design ambassadors, and we are capturing all of these talks so that the repository is available to people to see what people think about design, what they say about design. And we'll eventually also publish a book, which will be about thoughts of these design ambassadors. A summary of the talks will go there. So these questions are also part of that objective, so that we have a similar template and we get different views on the same questions. So I'll start with the first question. I think, again, I'll rotate the order to make it interesting. So the first question, I'll start maybe with Aarti. So what does design or designing mean to you? And what are the salient features of design? So don't be surprised. I'll go random. So, yeah. Yeah, I think, is the mic working? I think probably not. If you, Siraj,
So I have a background in architecture. Well, people might have a different perspective on this, but a lot of my design thinking and design theories and design processes come from my architecture background. And these processes evolve, and as you were saying, there's different schools of thought in the sort of design, the process that we take, and it's important to recognize these different schools of thought. For me, design has evolved as I have evolved as well. Where, as I was presenting, it's similar to what I said before. For me, it's more than a process to find a solution. For me, it's a way of thinking. It is an inquiry. It helps really build conversations, and design is everywhere around us. And I was trying to think about what example to give, and there's so many around us. One of the things that triggered me is I was coming from Heathrow Airport into Bangalore, and the last 2 weeks, all we see in the news was how horrible the experience has been because of the lack of staff. And when I walked into the airport, every step of the way, I realized how much organization has changed in order to make this transition as smooth as possible to the user. So if one of these elements failed, then there is chaos, and there is queues, and there is delays. But how they have organized it from the systems level, from the service level, right from the little interaction you get from these devices to check in or drop your baggage, everything is designed for. For me, design is very holistic, and it's everywhere around us. I think that would be my response. Yeah.
Right, thank you. Professor Mrityunjay, same question.
Design can be used as a noun, it can be used as a verb. So my interest is more in design as a verb. Okay. So rather than the end product, the process. Okay. So in that respect, there is Herbert Simon's definition of design. If you find something, present situation is not the best for you, how will you transform it into a preferred situation? Okay. So all the aspects involved in this process, including you must not get into solving the wrong problem. So problem recognition, asking questions, and so on, and then coming up with what exactly you need, and then freeing yourself from all the prejudices. As you know, there are any number of mental blocks, getting rid of them, and then thinking clearly about what could be the conceptual ideas and so on. Okay. The importance of diverse thinking. Okay. Of course, you cannot forget, you can't rely only on divergent thinking. You can't forget convergent thinking. That is very much you need finally, and in the initial and final stages. So all these aspects are more important to me. So that is why, for me, design is more a process, which can be used for coming up with any type of product. Okay. So that is my idea of design.
Thank you. Siraj.
So professor is on verb side, I'm on the noun side. So I believe design, to define design, we need context. And in my context or the area of work which I am working on, I think design is just a plan. I just remember Dr. Dibakar saying, no just. It's a so it's a plan with a purpose, and the context will define everything. Yeah.
So just to give a context to people who are new, you'll get to understand what he means by the word jest, right? You just have to wait for your session. All right, so Mr. Anuj, Mr. Prashad, your thoughts, same question.
So I think this question has far too many answers. But I think as a design practitioner, I feel that design is infinite, and the possibilities which exist for a creative person or an innovative person are infinite. And I think it is just a question of, identifying those opportunities or the need gaps which a design mind would have, and having a patience of solving and bringing it to a conclusive end for the next evolution, I would say, because design keeps evolving. It's a journey. It doesn't give you a end result which is forever, because it's only one milestone in a very long journey of evolution. But one has to take it, because if you keep it in your mind, your creativity, you have so much of imagination, everybody has, but converting that into something which works for people, which works for the society, I think that's what design would mean. So I think a good imaginative thought which can be converted into something which is useful for people, useful for businesses, useful for institutions, also for the ecology, you know, the whole idea of doing design for sustainability at a very conceptual level itself means that you're solving a problem rather than doing a patchwork later on, because many of the disciplines do patch, which is, you have done something and then you want to correct it later on. So I think design, just by the virtue of its creative content, which is so akin to the nature, I think it is so infinite. And that is what I would love about design, and every designer should actually love about it, because there's no end to it.
Great, thank you. So I'll start the next question with you. The question sort of follows from moving from design to a designer, right? Because we have a lot of people who have just joined the design program, and society has a notion of what a designer is, right? So what does it mean to be a designer from your perspective as a practitioner? And please explain it as to someone who's just starting their design career. So how should they look at it? What does it mean to be a designer?
So I think definitely design is very evolutionary, the way people evolve as they go into the journey of their career. So when I started as a fresh designer, for me, design meant actually doing anything and everything which could be, which can come out in the market, and the satisfaction of seeing your own creative effort, which reaches out to the millions. But I think over the years, because I finished my design at an ID in 1993, which is almost like 30 years back, and the context was very different in those days. But I think for the fresh designers, design is so much more, And I think it's very important to find your own flair for doing things. You really need to discover. So I think early days for the fresh designers should mean to discover themselves well, because they must have heard about design, they have read about design, but what is their own natural path about design? Because everybody is made differently, and I think that is the discovery which they should try to do for first 3 to 5 years time, and then try to focus on those areas where they really enjoy the creation which is meant for themselves. Like the designers say, one size doesn't fit all, And similarly, one discipline of design doesn't fit all. Product design is so vast. You just can't be just a product designer, which would mean that you're designing product and the end result is a nice, good-looking piece with good user experience. No, because the possibilities of design are so immense. So, and in the current context, I think designers should get into the discovery mode and then find the right path for themselves.
Right. Great. Thank you. Siraj, same question. Designer from a society and
Now I'll switch from noun to verb. For being a good designer, understanding the verb portion of design, design process, design thinking is very
closer.
Important. If you understand the purpose, you plan your process and you get an output, then you are a product designer or a designer, otherwise just a design graduate.
Thank you, Professor Mrityunjay.
I didn't catch the question.
So what does it mean to be a designer? I mean, society and the community sees people as designers and non-designers. So what does it mean to be a designer from a social perspective?
Okay. Well, any design is designed for the society. Okay. So that way, you cannot be isolated from society and design for the society. So you should be, that's how the design, same product for the same purpose in one country will be different from the same product for the same function in another country. So that is where the society comes into picture. So designer has to have, other than his thinking skills and technical skills, he must have knowledge of other aspects of the society, including culture. As you know the Dyson diagram, design interacts with every aspect, including politics, economics, psychology, everything. So that way, designer has to be knowledgeable about everything to some. Otherwise, he will not be a good designer. Right. That's why.
Right. Thank you.
So I had time to think. So I had three parts for that answer. So one is a very cliche answer is being empathetic. Designer means you're being empathetic to the user. You must have heard this about 100 times. But the second, for me to be a designer means sometimes I need to voice my opinion, and sometimes I might be the only women in the group, or sometimes I might be the only person of color in the group. So for me, that being a designer and being representational, being inclusive is very important. And the third thing is borrowing a statement from my colleague, and I do believe that, and we teach that to our students as much as we can. See what everyone else is seeing, but think what no one else is thinking. That's what it is to be a designer.
Great, thank you. So I'll start the next question with Professor. Yeah, all right, you're free to clap, of course. Sorry, I'm interrupting the claps in between. The next one I'll start with Professor Mrityunjay, given his experience. Of course, we are all experienced here, but there's a volume of experience and wealth of experience that comes with you. So what were your views of design and how it has changed over the years? Right? And I would sort of, again, ask you to specify some specific experiences or key milestones in your life which have changed your understanding of design, if it has.
Okay. I don't know. See, at undergraduate level, we just don't learn much about design. What we learn is a shaft design, gear design, spring design, and so on, as far as mechanical engines are concerned. Likewise, electrical engineers may learn about something else. But design for the world, or that is something which is not really communicated at UG level. Okay. And I'm not sure even at PG level, in other, unless somebody is studying in a design school or a product design program, whether they are really aware of all the dimensions of design. Okay. So that way, of course, change you see, because we live in a designed world, as you see, she was talking about smart home. you know, which nobody could imagine maybe 10 or 20 years ago. So that way it's much more sophisticated now. You know? That is, it keeps on changing. Design is not static. You know?
Right. Right. Thank you. Siraj, would you like to have a go?
As I mentioned in my presentation, the thinking of design has evolved and changed a lot. Initially, before my formal education in design, I used to think making a good design was like if you are able to manufacture it, if you are able to assemble it, if you are able to process it, if you are able to service it. That was the limited understanding of design. However, as I came here, then usability started coming into picture, aesthetics started coming into picture. So these factors, the understanding of these factors also started building up. Then when I started interacting at a system level project and understanding the whole system, whether it is multidisciplinary system or only a unidisciplinary system, it depends on that context. And now I'm working in medical devices, so understanding biology, understanding pathology, understanding disease state, understanding where these things are going to end, that level of understanding is evolved and it would continue to evolve.
Great.
So now it's more of a system thinking than only just design thinking.
Right. Thank you, Arti.
Can I ask you to repeat the question?
So the question is that as we all we start somewhere in design and then you have experiences that changes your understanding of design. So the question is, how has your understanding of design changed over a period of time? And if you can specify some examples of it.
I think it's changed at every stage. I think it's fair to say, and it's still changing. Rightly so, as you said as well, it changes when you're an undergrad to an extent. I'm not going to lie, not much. But as you start applying some of these learnings into where you work and sometimes in your masters, it changes a lot there as well. And then when you actually go on, when I went on to do my PhD, I think it's a big shift in what my perception of design was then, as opposed to what perception of design was as a part of a PhD, being part of a group, and having design in your head as a slightly more abstract sense, rather than, as I said, was more of a physical product as you would associate normally with. And I still tend to learn as you go on to do, your postdocs. I definitely learned how to work with emerging technologies. I associated design to be one thing, but it opened my eyes to be applying the same principles you learned with 10 different things. And even some of the projects that I engage with multidisciplinary project researchers from different backgrounds, I still tend to learn what designer's role is, and it varies so much as you go along. And just to kind of conclude, even today, when I was talking to people, I felt like I've learned a lot, and I felt like there's a lot for me to think and take home as well.
Thank you. Mr. Prashad, same question.
Yeah, I think most of the answers have come from the three panelists, but I think there's one part which I feel is very important is the intuitivity in design, which means how intuitive you become as you grow in your practice. And to me, I think it comes through the number of hours which you put into your practice and with the variety on the other axis, how many kinds of products do you do? So I think there are two aspects. One is being an intuitive designer, and second is being intuitive about understanding what the customer or your user needs, which means a lot comes through your own thought process because you have done it or seen it before. So I think this kind of a matrix is something which every designer should try to achieve, because there is something called the speed of design, and many a times we get into very long bands of designing a product and then, probably pushing it in the market when it becomes almost like irrelevant, I think so to get the speed of design and getting the right solution, I think building intuitivity is something which I feel is very important. which comes through rigorous practice, I would say. And second thing is that we are not individuals as designers. We need a lot of collaboration, and co-creation. And what we have discovered in last many years is that the people with whom you are designing, I think they should be a part of that collaboration, and they should be a very organized kind of a co-creation activity which happens, so that instead of doing a lot of to and fro and going through a linear cycle of evolution and iterations, you can do it much faster. Extracting creativity from people for whom you are working, I think that that's one very big thing which we feel is very relevant in today's context, So I think these are the things which we have learned over so many years. And last but not the least is a good expression of design. How do you express it, or how do you manifest design so that people understand and they are able to give a meaningful feedback or meaningful critique, So I think these are the things which I feel we have learned over so many years, and this should be applied.
Great, thank you. So just an extension of the same question. I think I'll sort of combine two questions I wanted to ask. Are there any specific, instances or experiences that I would like to recount, which has, sort of changed your perception? And if you can keep it brief, so say a minute or two on any specific experiences that recount project or, people, anything that has significantly affected your thoughts on design.
To me?
Yeah, I will start with you. Yes.
Okay. So I think failures is something. So many times you start something like we started a new venture which was in the area of creating sustainable design and replacing plastic way back in 2005. And we're doing this in parallel, and we wanted to create products which can replace plastics in our day-to-day life. And so it was just a thought, and we started doing it, without really going to the consumer, without really checking out the market. It was purely based on my own passion, and started doing it, and did this for almost like 5 years with a team of around 2-3 people who were separately working on this, but it never succeeded, So I think doing something which is your own passion, your own intuition, and if you want to build this into something which is also a business, one needs to understand much more. It is not just design knowledge or your passion which works. So I think that's one very big learning, that you need to probe in more, and we have done many such things, and many times failed, which of course is a very rich baggage which I carry with me, but I think that's one. And second is the relevance at the time when you're doing it.
Right.
Is it relevant at that time or not, or is it too ahead of its time? And third thing which I learned very well was focus. As designers, we tend to do many things together because we are so excited about our creative juices. But I think to get the right solution, it's important to focus and get absolutely optimum solution. So these are the learnings.
Great, thanks for sharing. Wonderful. Siraj, same question.
I think it was in while we were developing or designing a ventilator, we were doing ethnographic research, observing clinicians in ICU. And first time in life we experienced, we saw a patient dying and there was emergency. I think that impacted me a lot, and I was trying to work more and more in medical devices, trying to define the space and seek opportunity. And that is where in 2011 I left the consulting business and went for a formal education and get into this field. That impacted me a lot.
Great.
And my design thinking.
Great, thank you. Professor Mrityunjay.
Again, I didn't catch your question.
So the question is, if you can recount one significant event or project or person who sort of influenced your design thinking or the way you approach design.
No, because I'm really in the academic field.
Right.
Okay. Unlike our other panelists, so it's difficult to think. Only thing I can tell is slightly different from this.
So if you can keep the mic
design-
closer, yeah. Is it off or maybe you can swap?
We should not be under the impression that design thinking is only for the designer. Okay. So in that sense, we should, there should be efforts to bring design thinking further in the educational level, undergraduate, some of it can even be taught in schools.
Right.
For example, there is a program to try teaching design thinking at schools at Europe,
Right.
and in Russia. The TRIZ technique,
Right.
is taught in schools.
Right.
So that way, it will. It is useful not only for those who will become later designers, even for other people.
Right.
Whichever field they go, it will be useful because it improves their thinking.
Right.
So this is where design schools can play a role. At least CPDM can start some extension lectures, for high school students or something, imparting design thinking to them.
Right.
And also you can coordinate with in what way the well-known design studios can help design schools. There is a lot of scope for collaboration between design schools among themselves and with other design studios. Okay, you can't expect collaboration with big industries. They have other concerns, but design studios can afford to do that.
Right.
Okay. So this is slightly deviating from the question, but
Right. No, it's relevant, I think.
okay. Right.
And in CPDM, actually, there are things happening for schools, design thinking. And I think the new educational program, the government has already brought in design thinking into schools. So I'm glad that you're reinforcing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Aarti, same question.
So for me, it's my mentors and the people I've met along the way from when I did my master's and PhDs and postdocs. But most importantly, it was the friends I made while I'm doing my master's and PhD. So particularly for students, just look around. The people that, the networks you create now, it'll be far more significant for you. And that was my learning. And it was actually one of my mentors mentioned it, and it's highly, highly relevant. And that really changed the way I looked at design, and seeing the journeys that each of my peers took along with me was the biggest learning for me. Yeah.
Right. So I'll wrap up with the last question from my side. And again, this is for all the panelists, so we'll go through one more round. Is what is the next frontier in design practice, design research that you're excited about? Yeah, we can start with you.
That's a very complicated question. I think design. I think we have, as again going back to my presentation. I think teaching design as an inquiry more than what we know as a process to identify a solution to a problem. I think including as part of that as a pedagogy would be the way to go for in kind of creating the future generations sitting here. I think there's a lot of expectations from you as well. What you can deliver and how are you actually going to apply some of your learnings, not just in the field you're learning, but how are you actually going to bring your learnings into kind of different fields. And I think this comes from the conversation we had this afternoon as well. So that would be my answer.
Right. Mr. Mrityunjay.
I think this I've already answered.
Yeah, I think your last comment probably answers
Okay,
that. Right. Thank you. Yes.
I think I would also like to pass because I'm on practice side.
Right. Well, you can still say what you see as the next frontier, but yeah.
No, I'm happy. Like my daughter is in 10th standard, and they also have a course in design thinking as well as design projects. So, and it starts, I was happy to know that it starts with finding a need, and then it ends up with business plan, that too in standard 10th. So I don't know where it will go, because these kids are getting educated with the design process so early now, which we did in masters.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Mr. Prashad, same question.
Yeah,
Next,
I see. I feel that there is something very important in design which is innovation, which means that innovation through design thinking is something which is coming up in a big way. And I also feel that innovation, the instinct of innovation is something which is a gift to many people. And in a country like India, and they say that around 2.5% people are creative or innovative. So in a country like India, we have like almost 3 crore people who fall in this category, which is equal to the population of many countries. And like Korea has 4.5 crore population and doing such fantastic work. I think discovering these innovators, and which I have been lucky to do, and we started Desmania Innovation Labs with this innovator who was gifted. He's neither a designer nor an engineer nor any kind of a qualified professional. And I've also come across in several forums where you have these kind of people who have an instinct to innovate, and they do it. They can innovate on. They can write a software. They can do hardware. They can do mechanical. They can make website. They can just do anything. And I've seen so many of these people who are actually lying under the earth right now. We need to unearth them, especially in a country like India, and connect them to the designers. So which means innovation through design, which means just organizing their thought process into something meaningful for the society, for the people, is something that can be done only if you have a good innovator who can convert the idea into something which is real, which can be tested out with the consumers or the users. So I think that's one big challenge which I see is very big for the designers to discover these innovators and bring them in mainstream in the design profession. I think that's one big area for India at least, and for the emerging markets.
Great, thank you. So with that, my questions are done. So we can give them a big hand. Now, I'll open the floor for questions from the audience. Again, I'll take one of the mics from here. Okay, this is an opportunity, so please make the most of it. So there we have. Go ahead.
This question might be more targeted to Siraj. In healthcare, how do we design for essential suffering also to be part of the process? There are some cases where through suffering, the treatment can go on better. So in those scenarios, the essential suffering part of the healthcare, how do we promote that through design?
Oh, this is a very difficult question. Essential suffering, I don't know.
I mean, in the context of, say, terminal illness, we know that there is an end to them. And how do we design treatments or protocols or products in that case, more in palliative care?
Yeah, it would be in palliative care, and that would be essentially to reduce the suffering, but not essential suffering.
I mean, they undergo a process only because they're suffering, and that promoted them to get a treatment done.
So can you give an example? So for example, if I take, let's say you're saying chemo is, for example, a suffering that's needed to, so you have to go through that suffering to sort of reduce or alleviate some other. How do you design for that? Is the question. I think you've asked a very tough one, probably.
Yeah, maybe Manish can answer that. I would like to pass.
I think Jayant also wants to, so please feel free. Yeah, Jayant, if you want to comment.
Yeah, I think, sorry to take out mic from you panelists, but yeah, I think when we talk about any medical intervention or any medical device, I think typically we talk about basically a tree. And at the base of the tree, typically you have the essential part, or actually treating the disease. But as you branch out, I think many times you sometimes focus on the symptoms. So I think it's a mapping of the problem at a hand. And when we talk about terminal illnesses, I think the science is not that much evolved, or there are limitations of the treatment. So we need to understand that and eliminate the pain part of it, or what is as a designer we can. So the identification of the problem, like whether I want to treat or whether I want to minimize the pain, or what is the intervention is required. Understanding of that is more important in those kind of scenarios. And I think in medicine, there are many situations wherein the basic disease cannot be treated. It can be just managed. I hope I touched upon a few points.
Yeah, so my suggestion is that let's follow this specific, and it's a very important question, but very tough one to sort of address in one panel discussion or a short answer to that. But I think this needs to be discussed. I think we have a set of people who work on this area. So I hope that, in the IT, you form a group and discuss this. Somebody should take notes on that. Yeah, can we have the next question? Yeah, we have one here.
Tejas here. The question is
Closer.
Hello. Yeah, Tejas here. Sir, Siraj, I wanted to ask you this, that first of all, it was very refreshing to see that to see a Indian product being developed in the surgical equipment market. So a couple of months back, a few friends and we had this opportunity to be at a medical expo. And there we saw a lot of companies who had showcased their medical surgical equipment products. And we couldn't find any Indian manufacturers or companies over there. And so we got curious and we started asking the MRs over there that what's the reason for this? And apparently, according to the MRs, they said that the practitioners, they preferred innovations and the product innovations from the US and from the West and Japan in general. And you being a person here in India developing such a product and having patents all over the world for it, how do you sell it to a user base of practitioners who prefer products from the West? And here also comes the trust part. And how do you see building that trust with people here in India by for selling a product, the business side of it?
So this is a tough situation any medical device innovator faces in India. It's basically the trust portion, but I believe this can be taken care by the data or clinical data through investigations what we have and training. We just need to go through this phase where there is a general perception that yes, there are Indian designed and Indian made devices which are not only as effective as foreign, but they are much more effective than what we were using it earlier. This is a pain area which I think we need to go. We face this every time.
Can I answer this question, please?
Yeah, please go ahead. Yes, of course.
So I think this is where design plays the most vital role in creating trust, and that is the reason we are practicing design, So I think there are 2-3 areas which we really need to work on, and we have some great case studies which come from the Korean companies like LG, Samsung, and all. They were all once upon a time they were all vendors to some very big OEMs, and then they made their own brand and then they started selling. So I think few things which design teaches us is, one is of course the visual perception, So how do you perceive a product? It has to look absolutely awesome and it should give you a feeling of trust. Second is building a brand around it, which means you can't just make one-off kind of a product, but you need to have a whole plethora of them coming in. And third thing is that finding out that right insight which design teaches you, which is different from what a company like Siemens or Philips would be making, and you understand the user or the final end user better, and you're giving some additional feature which nobody has actually thought of, And this is a tough one, tough one to do. But and then lastly, it is the cost. So if you are giving all the three, which I just talked about, at a cost which is lesser, I think gradually it brings in the trust. And let me tell you, it's not an overnight kind of a thing which happens. We have seen, the companies grow in. Hyundai, for example, as a car was supposed to be the most lower end of the market once upon a time across the globe. It is no more so. Samsung appliances, Samsung phones in 2003, 4, 5, they were considered to be the bottom of the pyramid of the phones, So we have seen that design actually has helped in building this trust amongst users, and same can happen in the medical appliances, but it is not only aesthetic, let me tell you, it's a combination of all these factors put in together in the right proportion. And there's no formula for this, let me tell you. You have to find your own formula.
Right. Thank you. I think Manish had a point.
I think both Anuj and you, Siraj, talked about it. Taking from your statements, there is an element of trust which is required, and it, other than the three factors which you mentioned earlier, there's an element of time. Seeing the thing again and again and seeing it perform better or perform reliably is something which is bringing in trust.
Yes.
And if that trust builds up, I think Indian brands will also do well, not only in India, but also globally, because we can, I think, do product design which is affordable for the world. So I think that's the direction.
Right, thank you. I think Aarti has a point.
No, just to add that in the paper, Mortier does talk about time, and for some reason, he talks about it under negotiability, but he does talk about it, but not as a separate entity, but it's sort of embedded within negotiability.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. We'll take one last question. Yeah, we have one on, we have two questions, so we'll take two. I think we can start here and then you can go there. Okay, we'll take three then. Oh dear.
Well, so this is something that I have been wondering for some time. In any design school, any design meeting, defining design becomes a very, very interesting topic. I have never seen scientists define science. Rather, they define what is not science. So why this difference? Artists never talk about art, what is art, they simply do it. Scientists are obsessed with exclusion, what is not science. But we designers always try to figure out what is design. Why you think this distinction?
Is that a question or a comment?
This is a question.
Right, okay, for the panelists to answer. I'm on the safe side.
I would request Professor to answer.
I don't know.
Okay, your question is, artists don't talk about what art is, scientists don't have, but designers always talk about design. Maybe though design exists from times immemorial, even the ancient man was a designer, he was solving his problems. But design as a process is not well known, in literature or in real world. They see the products, but the process behind the product, nobody appreciates, and nobody is told, nobody is taught. Whereas science and arts teaching is, starts right from school days and so on. I mean, that may be the reason, I don't know. Because speaking for myself, I never knew design as a process till I joined Master of Engineering program. Before that, I knew finding dimensions of shafts and so on, etc., which was much more technical. That may be the reason, I don't know. You have any answer?
I don't have answer.
Okay.
For me, I don't want to answer.
I feel that's something. I think it's one of the things I observed the morning I came here was you had Henry Ford in one of your rooms, and you had Donald Norman in one of your rooms as well. And I do disagree with both of them in many ways. Maybe it's a different day, different conversation to have. But that, and as designers, we are very opinionated as well. So probably why we have so many different variations in definition. And also I wanted to say was, while I saw all of them like great, but what about indigenous designers? They don't really get recognized in their process, and in the literature we don't really see them either. So I think as the process identifying, the more we are inclusive about design, the more the definition changes as well. Yeah.
All right, I think with that, my apologies also on this, because I think we have just run out of time, and I am aware that we have the 6th batch people here as well, so at least we should have some minutes for them. So with that, let's thank the panelists. I'll try to ask the, yeah, okay, we can give a clap for the panelists, and then. Yeah. Okay, so we do the ceremony first. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just hand over the certificates and mementos to the panelists, and then we'll meet the 6th batch alumni. So I'll ask Professor Chakrabarty to please come on stage and do the honors.
Try to reduce the number of times people come up.
Start in the same order. This is not open. I'll just get these out.
Sure. Okay, so my pleasant duty is to allow a design ambassador. You are also a designer. Proud moment to get a certificate from my student. Okay, thank you. And this is Indian. Okay. Thank you.
It'll take me a minute to anyway.
So you are now our citizen designer.
That was going to pronounce very nicely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, and for Mr. Prashad, I think we'll ship it to you at your address. I'll take that later. So with that, I think I'll thank all the panelists for such a wonderful discussion. I'm sorry I had to cut it halfway. Now I'll request the 6th batch people who are online, so please sort of switch on your cameras, and I'll ask Shantanu to come over stage so that you can also be here. Yeah, so Shantanu, and so there are 4 of us, I guess. So Karthik is there. Karthik, if you can come on, on the camera. Murthy and Bhargav, I believe you guys are there as well. Great. Murthy, are you there? Very good. Good to see you. And Bhargav, are you there, or he left? Is it? All right. So this is the 6th batch. So what we have been doing is we are with each event we introduce the batches. So the first event, first batch, second event, second batch. And with that, in the 25 events, we want to cover 25 batches of MDes program. I think from next time, we'll also potentially have the people who joined the research programs and so on. Right, so the idea here is that I'll ask each of you to sort of, and I am part of this batch, so I'll also talk about me in that case. So let's hear from you what you have been doing since graduating from CPDM. So 2-3 minutes of introduction, where you are, what are you doing currently, and what have you been doing? So who would like to go? We'll start with Murthy maybe. Yeah, Murthy, please go ahead.
Hey, Vishal. First of all, thanks very much for having me, for inviting me to this 25 years of Silver Jubilee celebration. Thanks to Vishal, thanks to MDes Chakrabarty, and I can see some of my seniors over there. Yeah, so right now I'm in Jaguar Land Rover in UK. I'm working here since November 2013. I have 2 little kids. So coming to my experience, as soon as I passed out from IISc in to 2004, I joined Tata Motors in body engineering. I was doing some of panels designs over there. And then most of the times my work used to go to the CAE department where they used to suggest many changes in there. Then I thought I should learn CAE tools as well. So then I joined GE in Bangalore. I was working on thrust reversal mechanisms in static analysis. After that, I have got an opportunity in Nissan diesel cars in USA. I went there and then I was working on seating mechanisms on Nissan diesel cars. Then I came back to India because some personal constraints. I joined Renault Nissan Alliance Company in Chennai, RNTBCI. Again, I was representing Nissan projects. As part of that, I used to come frequently to UK to attend some design reviews and all. Then I got a job in Jaguar Land Rover. So since November 2013, I have been working on various projects like Jaguar XE, Jaguar XF, now the new Range Rover Sport. I'm the design and engineering lead for the front and rear end mechanisms. I'm responsible for latching as well as unlatching of both bonnet as well as the tailgate, deck lid / trunk lid mechanisms. If something doesn't work, I get a call from China, USA, India, everywhere. So I am a father of the component which I'm dealing with, right from the basic design, conceptualization of the mechanism, and then converting that into actual product, testing of it, and then of course give some plant support in various plants in UK. So that's it right now.
Great. Thank you. We'll go to Karthik. So great to see you, Murthy. So please stay there. Yep. Karthik, if you can, yeah.
Yeah. Again, good evening and good afternoon to somebody. You guys can hear me, right?
Karthik, there's a bit of an echo, and if you can get closer to the mic.
Hello. Is it audible? Is this better now?
We can live with it. We'll try to sort of raise the voice here. So.
Okay, I will try to shout a bit. Yeah. Okay, again, good evening, everyone. Thanks a lot, Vishal, and thanks a lot, CPDM, again, for inviting us back. And it's good to see all the professors back again in a different setup. For a second, it felt like the jury is what we had during our college time. But I think the panelists were at the tougher situation than us, so it felt this little better to be sitting in this side. Right? So starting with my journey, right? So after graduation, I think I joined General Motors. We started as digital sculptors, and then we graduated as designers. And then we were the first designers to work in GM TCI, the Technical Center India. And then I joined Mahindra and then worked with Tata Motors, Hyundai, and then I moved to China for some time, and I was working with some of the Chinese OEMs as a designer primarily. So later I was hit with the same question, what is design? So I ended up in academics. That's where people are always wondering what is design and who is designer. Yeah, I'm doing that, and I'm still wondering what is design and stuff like that. So that is where I am. And I'm with Ajinkya D.Y. Patil University School of Design, and I'm the head of studio and IT. Yeah, that is
great.
About
thanks. Yeah, thanks, Karthik. All right, we'll go to Shantanu.
All right. So, am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So, sorry. Yeah, I think that this mic has to be designed better because
the feedback.
Course, I don't get a feedback. Anyway, so I like others, I started in design way before 2004, not just after 2004, because I started observing people and finding out problems. So it was not just between 2002 and 4. And I think that I have not graduated from CPDM yet, because the journey still continues. I call it as learning in reflection. because today also I learned a lot, because it was such a great pleasure for me to interact with all of you and learn. So it continues. So I can say that I will never get graduated. But yes, of course I worked with so many industries. I started in engineering as an ergonomist, then moved to digital product experiences, and it's been almost like 16 years there for me. Many corporates. Currently, I'm working with Google as head of a product initiative that Google has in India, based out of Hyderabad right now, originally from Pune. And I do frequently visit Bangalore, so I interact with students here, and it's been my passion. In around 2014, I realized that, okay, I've been involved in corporates a lot, so I thought to do something else. So I started, I founded a non-profit organization with my friends, which was like, an initiative, technology initiative to connect NGOs, volunteers, and the CSR, the corporates basically, to help each other. Okay, so it has grown over the period of time. It has evolved. Okay, now of course we have our own projects. I'm still there, sort of a silent member of the team, but proud that we could at least inculcate certain design thinking practices into this domain, and probably we can discuss a little, like at length a little later about that. But I would probably like to take an opportunity to answer your question, Professor Sen, because why we always think of design, why we try to define design. I think it's about the nature of design, right? It's the evolution that it targets. The needs and the solutions evolve all the time, right? And it's the reason, it's because of this that we have to always unlearn things, right? It's the nature of that. So I think it's because of this evolution, design has to fit to that evolution. And we have to always find new solutions and new methods. So design as a verb has to evolve. Design as a noun also has to evolve. And that's the reason why probably we designers are always obsessed about defining what is design all the time.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we had Bhargav as well, but I think he had to leave his office times. He's based in UK as well. 3 others of our batch, we were altogether 8, could not join. I'm the last one. So most of you have seen me. You'll see me, a lot of me, so I'll keep it brief. So I graduated same batch, and then I stayed back. I decided to go for research. I've never really gone out other than academics. I've been an academic through and through. So I immediately went for a PhD with Professor John Giro in Sydney. I worked with John Giro and Andy Dong, both again in design research. And that kind of shaped the way I started looking at design, a lot of that, of course. So starting from CPDM, CPDM has a way of changing you, right? So, and you'll experience that 3 or 4 years down the line. So it changed me entirely. And after that, sort of, I worked a couple of years as a postdoc in Australia itself. Then moved to Finland, where I was an assistant professor in Aalto University. There I taught in civil engineering department. So my research was more in the built environment side. And the last 2 years, I'm back here. The first 2 of those were COVID years. Now we are back to being full house, so that's great. So it's been an academic journey, and I've thoroughly enjoyed. And I was always looking forward to coming back to CPDM. So my CPDM experience is going to continue for a while. So that's from our batch. I think I'll thank you all. And I hope that we'll keep continuing to catch up. I think this is the first time the 4 of us are together on the same screen after graduating. So not a good thing. So we'll have to follow it up, right? Yeah, okay. So stay there. I'll ask one of you to take a photograph of the batch there. So at least we'll have, or take a screenshot. I think that's the easiest. So. Okay, let's take I can't, because only I can see 3 of us here. Oh, I see 3, okay. Right. Okay, great. I think with that, we'll close it here. I'll ask Professor Chakravarti to come and, give the closing note. Thank you all. We'll catch up again separately.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, so I think we're just about to go to high tea. So let me just say one thing. I thought that he would have said that, but that he didn't. I mean, people usually start with engineering or architecture, then they come to design, and then they go to entrepreneurship. He did it, or maybe start even research and then do all of that. He did it the opposite. I mean, he started with entrepreneurship and realized that maybe there is something amiss, and then he decided to go for his design training, and then he got into research. So it's a little bit like IISc. Most universities have 100,000 undergrad students, 20,000 master students, 5,000 PhD students. We have the other way around. We have 3,000 PhD students, 1,200 master students, and 800 undergrad students. So maybe in the same tradition, he's following it up. And it's wonderful to see both the person who started and also the batches that are coming up. And I'm really grateful to my colleagues also. I am seeing a much greater footfall now. And more importantly, I think we are recording these, and hopefully many of these nuggets are going to go back into. We have the plan of multiple books coming up that will actually archive this for the purposes of posterity. So that's very important. And I think with that, I would like to profusely thank again the team that has made this possible, Professor Vishal Singh and his students, as well as the office, Ms. Ranjita and various others who have contributed to the happenings that we enjoyed here. So thank you all very much. And let's join for high tea. Thank you.